take in chat.
Yeah, and anyone guessing that Black's knight would just yo-yo back and forth between the d7 and e5 squares, I mean, they deserve to win this Guess the Move competition. But yeah, in the meantime, Magnus trying to open up the queen side. There will be targets on that flank. I really like what Magnus is doing. Of course, the evaluation bar does not flinch. It says totally level. But Black might have to show some accuracy in the next few moves. There has been this trade. Jan has burned a few tempi. Just anytime you start kind of rotating your piece like this, just bringing it back, forward, going for the draw, you do tend to kind of lose focus on the bigger plan. And I'm not sure what exactly he's been trying to achieve, Jan Nepomniachtchi. The Black Queen now might need to start switching flanks. She might need to drop back. That's a big weakness on the b7 square. And Magnus, okay, I was going to say, he's going to switch his attentions. He's now most likely going to move his queen away out of the attack of the Black Knight and indirectly start attacking the isolated pawn. It's like, oh, wow.
Is he going to sack the queen?
Quick decision. Where?
Rook c4? Rook c4, rook d2, rook c8, rook d2. I mean, it's possible, but that's crazy.
He does it!
Oh my goodness, Magnus out here going crazy, big dog. I was just playing, but I wasn't.
Look at the blue arrows.
Ooh, oh my.
Whoa! That's the only move. He can't take the queen.
The crowd going wild. Oh, he's sacking his queen. I don't know why. You know, for people
The fans are just pre-moving. They're pre-moving for when he plays queen takes pawn.
No, queen takes f2 is crazy. I saw this rook c4 idea to play on, reminiscent of the game 6 of a world championship, where he sacked his queen there in the Catalan game and won. So rook takes c4. I was like, yeah, I guess he can do it. And you are playing for 2 results there, but queen f2 is crazy though. That's a move.
Yeah, I mean, nice spot there, Kanzi. Rook takes c4. It wasn't on my radar at all to sacrifice the queen, but I think we have to show this.
This is it.
Oh my goodness! Now I'm just up a pawn. It's a dub.
Wow, I think we have to backtrack and show what Jan Nepomniachtchi missed there, because that was a crazy moment. And it was here. Rook takes c4. It looks like the white queen is attacked and has to move, but nope. He ignores this. If you take the white rook, the white queen takes the black rook on d8, and Magnus would be a pawn up. But likewise, if you take the queen, rook takes rook is a Zwischen Zug, a Zwischen Schach, and in between check there, attacking the king. And at the very end, it would be 2 rooks versus a queen. White has also won a pawn in the process, totally winning, as we see by the eval bar. But queen takes f2, such a difficult move. I think this would have needed a shower of gold coins on the board if it had been played. The idea is queen takes queen. It's actually black who gets the 2 rooks for the queen with a check first, and ultimately a level-ish endgame. And instead, after queen takes f2, king takes. Now you lure the white king out with a check, and ultimately a drawn rook and pawn endgame with equal number of pawns. But look at what Magnus is doing. Let's catch up with the game, because after rook to a8, he isn't happy sacrificing the queen once. He sacrifices it a second time with rook to a4, and we're going to see this endgame now. Wow, rook and pawn endgame, but white has this extra pawn on the king side. Is this enough?
Yeah, that's the big question, but Magnus will play this on forever. And I want to just come back to what, James, you mentioned. Game 6 of their World Championship match, Magnus sacrificed the queen for a rook and a minor piece and went on to win that game. And that pretty much decided the whole match, right? Yeah. And here he's sacrificing his queen again. And for Jan, these are moments that don't leave your head. Those flashbacks keep coming back.
Yeah.
But queen takes pawn, he did pause. I thought he was about to find that move. But it's so hard to understand how important that was. And there was nobody tapping him on the shoulder and saying, hey, this is the moment you equalize. And by the way, it looks like Magnus is doing Magnus things. The pawns have disappeared on the left side of the board, but Magnus wants to create connected passers right now on the right side. What do you think about this last move, liquidating further?
h4 is a nice move. If this pawn is captured, the white rook will slide the whole way across to the right side and regain the pawn. Black's pawns are too weak. I just want to mention as well, I've won this exact endgame before against Gukesh. 4 versus 3 with pawns on the same side, but Black's isolated e-pawn is such a huge weakness that it's actually going to force the Black king to kind of decide you have to defend the h-pawn, the e-pawn. It's not easy, and ultimately he was so scared of the white h-pawn stepping forward and locking the king side there, Jan, that he did decide to trade off pawns, but this is so difficult to defend. I don't think Jan's going to be able to. Magnus is able now to play around for 50 moves. Black has 2 isolated weak pawns. White's 3 are connected. And yeah, this is, I think, even objectively, perhaps lost already.
Yeah, I mean, getting a first game dub in, a first round lead for Magnus, would be absolutely disastrous here, you know, for Yan. He had to keep it solid, and he was so close. He had to find that one tactical element in the position, a tough spot, but queen takes pawn, a beautiful one, a missed opportunity there right now. And we see the bar. It says that this is close to a winning advantage for white. And we're talking about an endgame. You know, the Magnus touch, the golden touch that he has in these positions. It's going to be a miracle if Yan survives this now.
It's just going to be suffering for the next 30, 40 moves for Jan Nepomniachtchi. He might be dancing around, look at his head go, listening to some music, but I think that's just to hide the
pain
terror.
inside.
Exactly. Terror of having to defend this against the world's best ever endgame player. Magnus improves his king, defending his pawn, freeing up the white rook now to improve itself. Slides up.
That's it. And at some point, he'll start advancing the f-pawn up the board, combine the king with pushing the pawns, rolling them up with the threats along the lateral fifth rank, putting pressure on black's pawns. He first improves the position of the rook.
Okay.
And it's a good idea, right, to play slow. You don't want to rush with pawn moves here. You can play another 100 moves, improve everything, tire your opponent out, bring him down on the clock, and then make one pawn move.
Exactly. Just only start setting the traps for the opponent when they're down to 30 seconds left. However, Magnus does push his f-pawn. I think this is part of the plan. Part of the winning plan. Actually, sooner or later, the white king might try to snake around using the h-file to walk up the board there. Also, the white rook is going to step one square further forward just to pin black's pawns on the sixth rank to the black king. Oh, this is going to be so difficult to defend for Jan. So many questions to answer. He's down to 2.5 minutes, equal time for both players. But Magnus, this is, I think, the dream first game for him. Often in one-on-one matches, especially these long 6-game matches, you just want to apply pressure, zero risk, show that you're in the ascendancy.
And it felt like Jan had done everything right out of the opening. You know, he traded the pieces off, kept his weakness under control, activated his knight. But in those tactics, which we often talk about as Jan's biggest forte, as his biggest strength, that's when the mistake happened.
Yeah, tactics and a little bit of maybe psychology there too as well. I'm in an equal position here. I wanted, I played for the draw. I wanted to. They say, how do you play for a draw? It's play for a win. Maybe look to be a little bit more active there. He was very comfortable getting the draw there after 95 back to d7. Then looked for a little bit, okay, knight c4, then missed the tactic. If he would have probably maybe thought, even just maybe another 30 seconds, maybe he would have chose a different move there and allowed Magnus to get, this very comfortable position now. Up a pawn, I'm going to milk this. I'm just going to play very slowly, wait for that mistake, and then, hit him with Devereski, page, 237, and somewhere in the middle of the book in those 4 Rookham game chapters.
He's about to hit him with an f5 if you're not careful, with black just pinned on the 6th rank, forcing the black king to fall back, which would mean the white king would move forward if you try to unpin yourself from the threat of f5. Jan feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, look at that evaluation bar. The advantage has been growing move by move. Magnus was hinting at getting his king forward. The black rook and king just preventing the white king's advance. But this tension, this pin on the 6th rank is so hard to deal with, so painful. I think f5 is just guaranteed next, and white is ultimately going to trade off his g-pawn for the white e-pawn. White's 2 connected pass pawns in the center are likely to win this game. Black's h-pawn just irrelevant here, just doesn't help at all. And Jan, he's looking away from the board right now. I think he's fighting the urge to resign. 1 minute left.
Yeah, he doesn't want to continue the suffering right now. And like you said, regardless of anything black does, white is getting those central connected passed pawns. He gives a check, the king will fall back. And now black has to move back with the king against the idea of f5, but f5 on the board. Expecting that to happen, or will Magnus just play around a little bit, enjoy his position, shift the rook, shuffle?
I think both strategies are viable here. You can shuffle, you can wait, but pawn to f5, played by Magnus Carlsen, is the most direct attempt to win. He wants to get 2 connected pass pawns together. A trick there from Jan, a deflection tactic, but ultimately this capture comes with a check. White's going to be 3 pawns up. Yes, the pawns are a bit ugly, separated here. Not connected, but this is more than enough.
Look at the speed with which Magnus is playing. It's like he studied these endgames when he was 3 years old. He's got them at the back of his hand. He has barely taken any time to think of a single move or the plan forward. And he's played it to accuracy. You don't see the bar going down even once. Not a single inaccuracy in this endgame by Magnus. All best moves.
This is his
That's
favorite
how
thing
good
to
he
do.
is.
Yeah, he just loves playing these endgames here, too. It's also, they say in the endgame, it's the It's easy. It's easier to calculate, but it also takes a lot to calculate because there's so many moves that can be played here. Rather than a middle game where you have a few options, you calculate those. But in the end game, there's lots of options, but it also is a lot of calculation as well. We got these extra 2 pawns here. This one's a clean one. Very easy for Magnus.
Yeah, and for the Black King, it's caught in 2 minds here. He will have to stay in the center of the board with his king, Jan Nepomniachtchi, because of White's e-pawn. But ultimately, one of the 2 pawns is going to act as a deflection. One is going to decoy the Black King and rook away. And then it's going to be the other pawn that wins. Magnus just choosing which pawn to bank his hopes on. He's pushing them both in tandem here. The White King cut off temporarily, but it can start moving across.
You could also move the H-pawn now 1 step forward, a capture on that, and then there are checks to answer as well. So he could go for tactics, he could go for a slower approach right now. Either way is Magnus Carlsen making this look clinical. He's making it look easy. Let me tell you, if I had this position with the white pieces, I would have bungled it up into a draw a long time ago. But just the way he plays, and he goes for the idea of 8-7.
Yeah, I only see one trick here for Jan Nepomniachtchi, that is to run the Black King into the corner somehow and hope for stalemate. Hope to give up the Black Rook, a kamikaze rook, as they call it, as long as there are no checks. But ultimately, Magnus will not fall for that one. And what to even play here? I'm expecting him to bring his king across to stop that white h-pawn. Of course, if you take that white h-pawn, you get skewered. The white rook steps up to the 7th rank with a check, a rook trade, and it will be game over. Okay, Jan does guard the pawn with his king. Magnus...
Oh, this idea. Maybe he goes like... Oh, he goes check first. Okay.
Ooh.
6.
Goes forward with the king. I thought he'd go into the corner and hope for stalemate there. But now black is frozen. The pawns are coming.
I think he's about to resign. How do you even answer this? You've got to go king to f6, closer to that e-pawn. The rook holds the h-pawn. The king holds the e-pawn.
Oh, you just go e7, I think. e7, this is a nice move.
Yep.
If king f7, you can queen and then rook check, which is nice.
Tactics everywhere.
Or even rook
Even
check.
with three pieces on the board.
Yeah.
Love it, James.
Very nice.
And we might see queen versus rook if Magnus pushes his e-pawn right now. He'll promote, but black might be able to grab some material in the meantime. We see a check. White king forced back.
Oh, 10 seconds for Magnus, though. I think we're going to have the king and queen versus king and rook.
There it is.
It's happening. But the rook is going to be very disconnected from the king. Will Magnus find a way to...
He played that move with 2 seconds left, by the way. And Magnus, he was thinking about promoting to a knight with check, but it didn't quite work. And now the black king and rook so far apart.
And there can be dangerous checks that end up winning the rook, and he's got to get the black rook close to the king.
He's getting jumpy, Magnus. He's made a couple of moves now with 1-2 seconds left on his clock. He made the last move with 1 second left. And, okay, he pins the black rook. He's closing in, but there are some stalemate tricks here. If you walk too close, you need to keep your queen and king and knight move away from each other. That tends to be the trick. Magnus just trying to gain time on the clock, though. Very professional.
And he's managed to get those extra couple of seconds. He's also moved his queen far away. So no ideas of stalemate just yet. But that's the one trick that White has to be careful about in these positions as Jan tries to achieve those setups by getting his king to the corner.
Yep. Oh, Jan leaning back. He knows that the net is closing around the black king. He has to cut him off on the 6th rank here. But there we go. Checkmate imminent. Jan resigns. Magnus takes the first win.